Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, these next storms really mean business as an active setup takes shape over the next several days with large hail, tornadoes, and damaging winds along with heavy snow. Good morning everyone, happy St. Patrick's Day out there. It's actually my wife and I's dating anniversary. We're at 19 years. And so we're going to be celebrating today, but let's take a look at the overall setup today because there's going to be a lot of active stuff happening. This is the surface map for this morning. So we had some storms yesterday down here into central Florida, and some of those were really packing a punch in around the Orlando area, Melbourne. They had some very large hail, kind of rare down there for central Florida. That same system's moving off the coast, and that instability is moving up the east coast this morning into portions of North Carolina, getting into Virginia with some kind of scattered activity in and around Delaware here into Jersey, back into portions of Long Island here. But now we take a look at to the northwest because that's our next setup as we have another diving trough moving in. That's got winter weather advisories into portions of Cheyenne, Wyoming. Got winter storm warnings into Colorado and back into Denver. It's snowing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We also have some snow breaking out into Kansas as well. There's the cold front. It's actually got some pretty cold air back behind it, but just to the south of there, you know it's got some cold air aloft, and with that, that spells trouble with a hatched risk for very large hail over portions of the Norman, Oklahoma area into Shawnee, into Ardmore, back into say like Sherman, Texas, around the Red River. Be on the lookout for some very large hail right along 5-6 o'clock along the dry line here, out ahead of this strong cold front. Some of those conditions could be packing a punch with an isolated tornado threat as well, but that will shift off into the southeast into the overnight hours and still have a slight risk for severe weather. And then you have a marginal risk for some very heavy rain over portions of Louisiana, and things start really get cranking again over portions of Louisiana as we get into tomorrow time frame. But here's the overall setup for the rest of the country for today. So you've got that instability with that heavier snow that's going to be breaking out in Colorado, the snow in New Mexico into Kansas, that fishtails up into Iowa. There's the storms out here into portions of Oklahoma, and that dives down into East Texas, into portions of Louisiana, into the overnight hours. But back ahead of the dry line here, that is a very critical fire danger out here in West Texas. I mean, things are just bone dry with the humidities next to nothing values out there, but be on high alert because anything that could light up quickly in this area. And then we have that same instability that I showed you with the surface map, having some rain showers for the rest of the day into portions off the coast here into Virginia and off the East Coast here. So, but for tomorrow, that continues to move on. So there's the cold front will clear out Texas, but out ahead of it, you got the warm sector again, but back into that same severe weather threat moves off into portions of New Orleans, getting into Mobile. Some of these could be tornadic as well. We also have another area of instability into portions of Tennessee as well as Kentucky. But just to the north of there, that's where the snow is going to be flying with that cold air penetrating from the northwest. That by the time we get into Friday time frame, it'll be over Iowa, getting into portions of Wisconsin as well as Michigan here, as the scattered activity will be taking shape over the Ohio Valley. But if we zoom in and kind of take a look about 4 o'clock in the morning time frame on Friday, there's the setup with the radar depiction as this continues to push off. This is going to be an overnight setup in and around the portions of Louisiana, getting into Mississippi with that very strong activity setting up over portions down here in Mississippi into as well as Arkansas. But like I mentioned, just to the north of there, that's where the snow is going to be flying into Kansas as well as into Iowa. But yeah, as we get into the afternoon hours, that tornado threat just shifts off a little bit further off to the east. So now it's really taking shape over portions of the outskirts of Louisiana into Mississippi, as well as Alabama. It gets into portions of Tennessee as we get into the Friday afternoon time frame. And there's the 5% setup for that tornado possibility. So really anywhere in this sector in the southeast, you could have an isolated tornado threat, but your highest areas of probability is back into New Orleans, into Louisville, Kentucky, into Montgomery, Alabama, as well as Columbus, Georgia there, that could be looking at an isolated spin up tornado. And then a little bit further to the north into portions of Memphis, getting into portions of Kentucky here, could also see an isolated tornado threat as we get deeper into the day on Friday. But as we transition into Saturday, that continues to push off the coast here, off the Carolinas. Now that same storm threat will be pushing into off the coast of Georgia here, into North Carolina, into Virginia. Those storms could also be packing a punch, as well as up here to the north. Our snow event starts to kind of wind down as it loses its punch with the colder air. But we already see another area of instability down here into the Pacific Northwest. Is going to be another diving trough that's going to be taking shape over the weekend. That's going to be bringing colder conditions for them out there, and then bringing scattered activity of rain into portions along the coast here into California with some desperately needed rain for them. But there's the storm threat, as we get into your Saturday time frame. So the highest area of instability is essentially going to be from Virginia Beach to Raleigh, down here to Norfolk, back into Chesapeake, Virginia, getting in all the way to Newport News, Virginia, all the way up to Baltimore as well, into DC, and Durham, North Carolina. So those areas and back into Richmond, Virginia will be under the gun to seeing some of those all three modes of severe weather as we get into that daytime hours on Saturday. But going into Sunday, we kind of clear out. I mean, I showed you the trough out here in on the Pacific Northwest off the West Coast, but for the rest of the country, you're kind of a reset day. It's kind of everything, more or less clears out. The atmosphere is starting to recover by then, and with this diving trough that's going to be setting up by the time we get into that Sunday time frame, with some very cold pocket of cold core air again. That out ahead of it, there's your warm sector. So I mean, that's just going to spell trouble as we get into the day on that Monday time frame, because it's got a lot of time to kind of regroup. Got 3 or 4 days to reset and pull up some of those higher dew points, and have a lot more instability to be able to work with by the time we get into that Monday time frame, with a massive low-level jet that's going to be diving off all the way down into the Baja of California. And as soon as it hits Texas, it's going to rapidly lift up north, and that's going to spell trouble with a widespread severe weather outbreak into portions of Texas as we get into the daytime hours on Monday. And there's going to be a lot of shear associated with it too. So the atmosphere is going to be rotating, and there's going to be a lot of rotation. So it is a dangerous day coming up onto portions of North Texas into Central Texas, with actually some much needed rainfall for as well. But those are going to be paying a price, because they're already an enhanced risk for severe weather. And I probably expect this to expand as we get closer to this event, because it's still 4 days out from when I'm recording this video. But yeah, those areas into Central Texas, into North Texas, into South Texas, all the way into Shreveport, back into Louisiana, into portions of Arkansas here, are going to be under the gun for a widespread severe weather outbreak. We're talking all 3 modes, so you got to be listening high alert on the day on Monday, and it's going to be a long, prolonged event as well. So I'll be definitely fine-tuning this setup in the days ahead, but this is going to be probably the most severe setup you've seen so far this storm season. But yeah, just to the north of there, we've got a perfect setup for an upslope snow event into portions of Colorado, back into Denver. This is probably as well going to be your most significant snowfall of the season, with a classic upslope setup over the Rockies here, and then back behind it, yeah, we got that setup out ahead of it with those very heavy rains into Texas, moving into Oklahoma. They're expecting several inches of rain into Oklahoma, into Arkansas, into Missouri, back into Kansas, but very heavy snow breaking out of the Rockies into portions of Wyoming, extending all the way up into portions of the Dakotas as we get into the afternoon hours on Monday. But look at this impressive comma Q shape. You know, there's a lot of energy with this system, and on the back, just on the northwest side of there, I mean, that's where you're going to be at. This is a pretty significant setup for a big snowstorm up here, moving out of the Rockies back into portions of Wyoming here, and then this will continue to lift off into portions of Nebraska, getting into South Dakota, as we get into the that Tuesday morning time frame. But yeah, this same instability just keeps pushing off into the East Coast, and then as we get into the daytime hours on your Tuesday time frame, you're going to have that same instability to work with, and that's going to spell trouble again for the Dixie Alley area. And again, this is 5-6 days out from when I'm recording this video, because there's a lot of activity, and this is going to be probably enhanced as well, going into portions of Memphis, Tennessee, into New Orleans, back into Baton Rouge, into Shreveport, into Mobile. So you got to be a high alert for another active severe weather, all three modes breakout setup as we get into your Tuesday time frame. And then there's the setup on the surface map going into Wednesday. So we start to see the snowstorm not be as nearly as impressive that we saw over the Rockies, but you're still going to be wringing out some snow into portions of Iowa, into Wisconsin here, as that surface low just to the south of there, and that continues to push off into the southeast with all the rain and instability, and not severe up here as you get into portions of West Virginia, up here into portions of the mid-Atlantic states, but just to the south of there, yeah, you're still going to be under the gun for yet another severe all three modes setup as you get into Wednesday, March the 23rd timeframe, back into Montgomery, into Mobile, Alabama, into Columbus, Georgia, and back into Tallahassee, back into Macon, Georgia. So all these areas are going to be under the gun for that severe weather, as it's going to be a very active week for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I do feel probably by Thursday time frame it starts to wind down, because once these start to move up the East Coast, it's going to start losing its punch a little bit, and this snowstorm is going to be winding down as well, but it's going to be still ringing out some scattered snow showers into portions of Illinois, going into Michigan here, and then getting back up into southern Canada with some light to moderate snow, as these rain showers and stronger storms will continue to push off to the East Coast as we get into your Thursday, March the 24th time frame. But here's the overall setup of all the heavier rain for the next 7 days, and where the precipitation is going to fly. It's still active out here in the Pacific Northwest, with those troughs going to be diving in every several days, and the atmospheric river still into play. So you do have much needed precipitation into Northern California. That swings into the Intermountain West. And then once it picks up some of that Gulf moisture, as that surface low will be breaking out heavy snow into the Rocky Mountains, and then just to the east of there, that's where the heavier rain and all the storm activity. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, with some very heavy rain on top of all three modes of severe weather. So we got to be, if you live in this area right here on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you definitely be on high alert as this very dynamic system comes through, tapping into that extremely warm, Gulf moisture for this time of year, and a very dynamic low-level jet bowling ball type trough sets up and moves across from west to east. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, and definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.